You're watching Digital Photography One-on-One, where we answer your questions. Here's your host, Mark Wallace.
In this session, I'm going to show you a 3-light setup that I really love. This is a lighting setup that looks very similar to the lighting used in the movie Sin City. I call it butterfly lighting, which is really not the right term for this lighting. Butterfly lighting is an actual style of lighting that shows a nice soft shadow underneath the nose. So even though I call it butterfly lighting, it's the wrong term, but I don't care. I like to call it that because of the way it's set up. And the important thing for the model to do is Teresa's going to have to stand absolutely still because this is a very technical setup. So go ahead and stand right in the middle there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on my modeling lights. And by doing that, what I'm doing is I'm going to really blind the camera here. I'm going to turn off that modeling light. And so you can see exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to turn off the ambient light. And then you can see exactly how I'm focusing these lights on the model. And so let me turn those off and then we'll come right back. Okay, now that we have the ambient light turned off, I'm probably in the shadow here, but what you can tell is that we have this really nice rim light on Teresa, our model. Now Teresa, what I'm going to have you do is stand sort of like Wonder Woman, so big pose, and then stand straight ahead, and then hold that just like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here to the first light, and the lights that I have are enable you to focus either a wide angle light or very, very narrow beam. And I'm going to use a really narrow beam. If you don't have lights that allow you to focus, what you can do is you can buy different sized reflectors. Some of them are more narrow beam, some of them are more wide beam. So for this you need a very narrow beam. The problem with this shot is now we have light going into the lens of the camera. That's causing lens flare. So that's why I'm going to use this, what we call a flag, this big black thing. And what we'll do is we're going to block the light off so it only hits the side of Teresa and doesn't hit the camera at all. Okay, so we should have a really nice highlight there. So I'm going to go walk around the other side and I'm going to repeat this. Now I want to make sure that we block this from the camera. So again, I'm going to bring this in. So we're blocking the light so it just hits Teresa. It doesn't hit anything else. That looks pretty good to me. Okay, now that we have both of these lights set up, what I need to do is I need to meter for the highlights to make sure that both sides of these highlights are exactly the same, so that when we take the picture, one side's not brighter than the other. So you can see how I do this. I'm going to turn on the ambient light, so we won't be able to see exactly what the light looks like, but at least you'll be able to see what I'm doing when I'm metering. Okay, now that you can see what I'm doing, what I'm going to do is, first I need to make sure that the lumisphere is down, so that I only get the light from the head that I'm pointing at. So again, we're metering for highlights. So if we do this right, when I take the photo, the highlights that are outlining her body will be exposed correctly, but the front of her face and body are going to turn just totally black because there's no light hitting the front of her. So first, let me meter this light over here, and I'm going to meter from a consistent point on both the left and right side of her body. And so I'm going to just meter right on her head. So I'm going to touch the meter right to her hair, point it at that light, and I'm going to meter. And that meter, this light back here says F9. So to make this right, that light over there needs to meter at F9 as well. So if I'm lucky, it will. Let me check. I'm going to point right at it, and it's F9. So we just actually got really lucky. Normally they're off just by a little bit. If one light was a little bit less than the other, what I would have needed to do is just push the light a little bit closer or pull it farther away. Or if they were monolights, I could have turned the power up on one or turned the power down the other. But to get these to meter correctly from each side, you want them to be the same distance and the same power, and they should meter exactly the same. And that's what we got. Okay, so the next step in this lighting setup is to light the front of her face. And we do that with our boom and our small softbox. What I want to do is I'm going to shoot almost directly in front of her, and so I don't want this stand to be in the shot. So again, that's why I'm using a boom. The boom will really take care of that. So I'll pull this over here. I'm going to stand on this so that this doesn't fall out over. Loosen this up just a little bit. And what I'll do is I'm going to push that out just about like that. Tighten that down. Okay, now I can move this a little bit to the left. Alright, now this is way too low. If I have my camera back here, it's going to be right into her face, which we don't want. I want to lift this up quite a bit. All the way up, actually. Just about like that. Alright, I'm going to plug this into the generator so we can see how much light we have. Just about like that. Okay, now to see what kind of light we're getting, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the modeling lights on the back lights, and that will allow me just to see how much light I have here. And because the back lights were at f9, I want this light to meter at about f8, f7.1, so it's less light than what we're getting from behind. I know this light needs to come down just a little bit in angle. Okay. Now, so you can see what this looks like. Again, I'm going to turn off the ambient light so you can get a better idea of what this light looks like on the model. We have a really nice soft front light. It gets a nice shadow below her chin, which I like. And I'm going to meter this. So again, the two backlights metered at 9, so I want this to meter around 8. So I'm going to put this right at the eyes, and that's at 10. So this light is brighter than the two backlights, which I don't like. So I'm going to adjust the power to the light at the generator. So I'm going to take that, reduce that light just a little bit, and I'm going to meter this light one more time. Now it's at 7.1. So this light here is much less than the light in the back. And now I'm going to put my Lumisphere up. I'm going to meter right at the camera. That's at 7.1, which is no surprise since that's the only light hitting the front of her. And what will happen is the back will actually be overexposed, these two lights coming from behind, and that's going to really give her that superhero look. So I'm going to shoot a couple shots. I'll show you what that looks like, and then you can experiment with this with your own lighting. This is great. It works well with females. It works great with guys. It really works well with anybody that has strong jawline, cheekbone, and if you want that really powerful look, this is the perfect lighting setup for that. So let me shoot a couple and I'll show you what it looks like. Just like that. Excellent. Beautiful.
This episode is brought to you by SnapFactory.com and StudioLighting.net. For more information about our workshops, visit SnapFactory.com.